Most owners clean it up immediately. That's a mistake. The color, the texture, how often it happens. All of it is information. Some colors are harmless. A passing thing, gone by tomorrow. Others mean you drop everything and get to the emergency vet. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which is which. Welcome to Instin Paws, where we separate dog facts from dog myths. Before we start decoding the different colors, there's one mistake many dog owners make, and it changes how you should interpret everything you're about to see. Not everything your dog brings back up is actually vomit. Sometimes it's regurgitation, and knowing the difference gives your veterinarian a completely different clue about where the problem begins. Vomiting and regurgitation look similar. They are not the same thing. Vomiting is active. Your dog's abdomen heaves, they retch, there's real effort involved, and what comes up is usually at least partly digested. Regurgitation is passive. No heaving, no effort. Food just comes back up, often shortly after eating, and it looks undigested, sometimes still tube-shaped from the esophagus. The difference matters because the causes point in different directions. Vomiting usually traces back to the stomach or the gut. Regurgitation usually points to the esophagus, the tube food travels through on its way down. Watch for the heaving. That's the tell. If there's no effort and food just slides back out, that's regurgitation, and it's worth mentioning specifically if you call your vet. Now let's get into the colors, starting with the one almost every dog owner has seen. White, foamy vomit is usually one of the least concerning colors on this list. An empty stomach is the most common cause. Stomach acid and mucus with nothing else in the stomach to mix with often comes up looking exactly like this. Mild stomach irritation causes it too. Something didn't quite agree with your dog, and the body's clearing it out. Eating grass is another common trigger. Nobody's fully certain why dogs do this, but it often ends in a bit of foamy vomit shortly after. And eating too fast plays a role as well. Gulping air along with food creates that same foamy texture on the way back up. Here's when it becomes worth watching more closely. If it happens repeatedly over a day or two, or your dog seems uncomfortable alongside it, that's no longer just an empty stomach. But white foam is only the beginning. The next color comes from a digestive fluid your dog's body produces every day. So what does it mean when the color shifts to yellow? That yellow tint is bile, a digestive fluid made by the liver, stored in the gallbladder, and released into the small intestine to help break down food. When a dog's stomach sits empty for too long, bile can back up into the stomach and irritate the lining. Vets sometimes call this bilious vomiting syndrome, essentially empty stomach syndrome. It shows up most often first thing in the morning or right before a meal, when the stomach's had the longest stretch with nothing in it. Too much stomach acid with nothing to buffer it adds to the same irritation. An occasional yellow vomit, especially on an empty stomach, usually isn't urgent. Sometimes splitting meals into smaller, more frequent portions solves it entirely. But if it's happening repeatedly, or your dog seems genuinely unwell alongside it, that's the point to get your vet involved. If you're finding this helpful, consider subscribing to Instin Paws. Every week, we break down your dog's health and behavior using evidence, not myths, so you can better understand what your dog is trying to tell you. Now let's move beyond liquids and look at something many owners find even more confusing. Remember the vomiting versus regurgitation distinction from the start of this video? This is exactly where it matters most. What about food that comes back up looking basically untouched? Eating too fast is the most common explanation. The food simply doesn't spend enough time in the stomach before it comes back up. A recent diet change can cause this too, especially in the first few days while your dog's system adjusts to something new. Motion sickness is a real, common cause. A car ride, and the food from breakfast reappears not long after you start driving. And esophageal problems are worth knowing about, though less common. If undigested food is a frequent, ongoing pattern rather than an occasional thing, that's worth raising with your vet, since it can point to something further up than the stomach itself. Clear vomit is one of the more subtle categories to interpret. Sometimes it really is just water. Your dog drank quickly and it came right back up. Sometimes it's stomach acid on its own, without food or bile mixed in. And sometimes it's a sign of mild stomach irritation, similar to the white foam category, just without the mucus mixed in. Picture this. Your dog gulps down a full bowl of water after a hot walk, then a few minutes later, it comes right back up, clear and unremarkable. That's usually nothing more than drinking too fast, not a symptom to chase down. The point where it's worth worrying, if clear vomiting repeats several times, or your dog seems lethargic or off alongside it, that's no longer just an isolated, harmless event. This next color surprises a lot of people. Green is one of the colors that deserves real attention for more than one reason. Sometimes it's genuinely simple, grass, which can take on a greenish tint on the way back up. Sometimes it's bile again, which can occasionally look more green than yellow depending on how concentrated it is. But green is also the color tied to one of the more serious possibilities on this list. Certain rat poisons are manufactured with a bright green or blue-green dye mixed in. It's done specifically so it's easier to spot if a dog gets into it. Here's the important nuance, though: not every rat poison contains that dye, and plenty of harmless green vomit has nothing to do with poison at all. So a green color alone doesn't confirm poisoning, and the absence of green doesn't rule it out either. Both directions of that assumption can be dangerous. What actually matters is context. If there's any chance your dog got into rat bait, a package that's been disturbed, a dead rodent nearby, anything that raises that suspicion, that's an emergency regardless of what color the vomit is. Don't wait for a color to confirm it. Call your vet or an emergency clinic immediately. But here's where many owners make a dangerous mistake, assuming a color needs to look scary to actually be serious. Everything we've covered so far has mostly been about irritation or empty stomach. The next colors can point to something much more serious. Brown or black vomit often means digested blood, blood that spent enough time in the stomach for stomach acid to break it down and darken it. Ulcers are one possible source of that bleeding. Internal bleeding from another cause is another possibility. And an intestinal blockage can produce this too, depending on where the blockage sits. This one is not a wait-and-see color. Brown or black vomit means an immediate vet visit, the same day, not a home remedy or a few hours of watching. Up until now, we've mostly talked about changes in color. The next two categories are different because they both involve blood, and that changes the level of urgency immediately. At first glance, brown or black vomit might not look as alarming as what we're covering now. Ironically, it can signal an equally serious problem. Both are your dog's body telling you there's bleeding somewhere inside. Red in the vomit means fresh blood, blood that hasn't had time to be broken down by stomach acid the way the brown or black version has. A mouth injury is sometimes the source, and it's worth checking your dog's mouth and gums if you can safely do so. A swallowed foreign object can cause internal injury as it moves through, leading to fresh bleeding. And severe stomach disease can present this way too. Any amount of fresh red blood in vomit is an emergency. This is an immediate vet visit, no exceptions. This one deserves its own explanation, because the appearance itself is the warning sign. Coffee ground vomit gets its name because it looks exactly like that dark, gritty, granular material, closely resembling used coffee grounds. That texture is what happens when blood sits in the stomach long enough for acid to partially digest it, the same underlying process as the brown or black vomit we just talked about, just with a more specific, more recognizable texture. This is one of the clearest emergency signs on this entire list. If you see this, you're not waiting for other symptoms to confirm it. You're heading to an emergency vet right away. Let's pull this together into a single, clear checklist. More than once or twice in a short window. Lethargy alongside the vomiting. Your dog won't eat at all. A bloated or swollen abdomen. Any blood, red, brown, black, or coffee ground. Trouble breathing. And extra caution if your dog is a puppy or a senior. Both have far less reserve to draw on than a healthy adult. Any single one of these is reason enough to call your vet. You don't need all of them together to justify making that call. So what if none of those emergency warning signs apply to your dog? What should you actually do while you're waiting to speak with your veterinarian? If none of those emergency signs are present, here's what actually helps in the moment. Briefly holding back food can give your dog's stomach a chance to settle, but this is exactly the kind of decision your vet should weigh in on for your specific dog, especially if you're at all unsure. Offer water in small amounts rather than a full bowl all at once, since gulping a large amount can trigger more vomiting. Take note of the color. Write it down if you need to. A photo is genuinely useful here. Vomit doesn't wait around for a vet appointment, and a clear photo can tell your vet more than a description from memory. And if any of those warning signs show up, that's your call to make to your vet, not the internet. Most vomiting isn't automatically life-threatening. Ignoring the warning signs is. The color, the texture, how often it happens, none of that replaces an actual diagnosis. But knowing what you're looking at can help you get your dog to the right kind of help at the right speed. If you enjoy learning what's really going on with your dog, not just the myths you hear online, subscribe to Instin Paws. Every week, we explore the science behind your dog's health and behavior in a way that's easy to understand. Next time, we'll look at another warning sign many owners overlook: why some dogs suddenly start drinking far more water than usual. Until next time, stay curious and keep listening to what your dog is trying to tell you.